We should have expected this episode to have a death scene. I mean, after all them death flags from last week, it makes sense. I mean, we knew either Aston or Takaki was going to die. It is one of those two characters. They possibly both could have died. We knew one of them had to die with this week's episode, because there's just no way, with all them death flags from last week's episode, that there would not be a major death this week. And since this is a new season of Gundam, that it just makes sense that there would be a death. So, Aston dies. Let me just be completely real, okay? I'm gonna be real with you. Aston, in the grand scheme of things, he's not as important as Takaki. Yes, I'm sad Aston died, don't get me wrong. But, Takaki, I think, as a character, has more potential, and he's a better character overall, and there's just more interesting things he can do as a person compared to what Aston could bring to the table. So, when you think about it, Aston's death, it was a good thing and a sad thing, because he made the way for Takaki to get more development, to man up, but also to have it to where Takaki can, you know, be displayed throughout the series, and see how more difficult it would be with him living on without Aston being there to help him out. So, the death scene in general, the way it was done, it was the typical type of death scene you would see. I mean, you had to where the man, you know, he died, or he was dying, and he was saying his final speech of how he wished he didn't meet everyone because he started to feel emotions again. He wanted to live, but at the same time he wishes he never met them, because then he wouldn't feel like this before he died. So it made me feel sad for him, yes. I felt very sad for the death of the character, but overall, though, I felt like it would have been a better death if it would have been quickly and just instantly, because if it was a death that just where the man died like instantly, it would have added more emotion to the scene of how quick someone could die, and, you know, the final thing you could say to them would be the final words they'll ever hear. And, I mean, if you would have died before the speech, I felt like that would have made the scene a little bit more impactful, but it was still good nonetheless. The way he died still was good, and it had a good meaning to it, and it's, you know, a good message for Takaki to grow from. So I don't really have a big issue with it. I just think that the way it was done, it could have been done a little bit differently, but that's my personal opinion. Now, besides that overall, Takaki, he's the type of character that's been slowly developing throughout Gundam, and we get to see this displayed throughout this episode of how he's developing, especially when he takes the gun from Mika and he kills Radish. When he grabs the gun after Mika flips it around, it's like, here you go, and he grabs it, and then you just see how he takes down Radish, and you hear the gunshots. I think it was 3 gunshots, so this man triple tapped him in the fucking head. You gotta realize that this man went full-on savage against Radish. I mean, he shot this man 3 times, and, I mean, he kind of threw aside his childish demeanor for a more mature self. So I like this new direction with Takaki's character, because this will allow him to go down a difficult path where he has to mature and realize that he's kind of like the kind of new leader of the Earth branch besides Chad. We know Chad's in, you know, the hospital, but we don't know if he'll ever wake up or not. So at this time, though, Takaki is still the leader of the Earth branch, and the way he took the gun from Mika and is like, this is the Earth branch's problem, and took him down, that was kind of saying like, yes, I'm responsible enough to take up the mantle or the gun of Tekadon and be able to handle the problems of the Earth branch when Chad is not around. That's kind of what he was trying to say to Mika, but also Akihiro and Eugene. So I love that little dialogue with those, you know, characters, just seeing how Takaki is like, yes, I got it, this is my problem, I will handle it, I'll make sure this gets settled, and how, you know, Akihiro, then they walked out of the room, they're like, no matter what he does, whatever decision he makes, I completely accept it. It's because it's his problem, he's the leader of the Earth branch right now, and whatever he decides is law. So I do like how they all had faith in him to make the right decision, but also no matter what he would choose, they would still believe in him and care for him deeply. So very good stuff, very good development, and seeing that bond between Tekadon, it's always a good thing to see. Now, let's talk about the fighting in general. So, Tekadon has a fight with the Chocolate Man, and we saw that last week. There's been a dispute with him, and we know that Orga, he set up, like, some form of, you know, relationship with Gallahorn, or, you know, the Chocolate Man's side, his faction, and with, you know, Tekadon, the Earth Branch, fighting against the Chocolate Man, it was kind of like the Earth Branch was going up against Orga's ideals, or what he was trying to set up, and they were being used, and I like how the Chocolate Man came in and was asking the question, Takaki and Aston, like, are you the ones that have been ordered to kill me? Like, has Orga told you face to face? Have you seen him say to kill me, come after me, or are you being used by someone? And I like that dialogue of how the Chocolate Man was trying to talk to them, trying to persuade them to say, hey, you guys need to chill, I'm not your enemy. I like how he at the very least tried to talk to him. He didn't try to kill them instantly. It showed that he did care and he tried to talk to his enemy, even though they weren't really his enemy in his eyes. He was trying to talk to them to persuade them to see that they're being used the entire time. Now, one thing though, when Aston died, I expected Mika to probably be very pissed off and either punch or slap or do something to the Chocolate Man, try to kill him or something after what happened to one of their members. I expected some form of issue to arise between these two characters, but that did not happen. I think it was because Mika understands what happens on the war. Sometimes it can be very brutal. Sometimes, you know, close friends can, you know, fight each other. I think he kind of understands that, and he realizes there's just a big misunderstanding thanks to both sides getting misleading information, or, you know, our side, the Earth branch, getting misleading information, and they were being used like puppets for their, some other people's grand schemes. So I feel like Mika understood that, and that's kind of why he probably didn't express his anger towards him. But I thought there would have been some form of emotion between the characters, but there wasn't. So yeah. Anyways, the death of a character, the general, the commander, I think his name was Gauntlet or whatever, the man died. And it's kind of sad because there was a lot of potential with that character. There really was. I mean, he was a pretty cool character. He had a lot of potential to be a reoccurring villain, but he was killed off. And I mean, in a way, his death scene had a lot more impact on me than Aston's death. I'm going to be real here. I felt like the death scene of the leader of the troops, like, you know, that was, you know, tricking Tekadon on Earth, I feel like he had a sadder death, because he was someone that forsaken everything. He forsaken his original origins and all that for the sake of the person that he was working for. And when the final scene popped out, he's like, do not cry for that man. Do not cry for a man with no name, the no name, because you're kind of shitting on his entire ideals and what he stood for if you cry for this man that forsaken everything. So I thought that was a very sad scene, and it actually hit me a lot harder than Aston's death. I'm not even going to, you know, joke around or deny that. That's truly how I feel. So yeah, episode overall of Gundam, it was a good episode. I loved how savage it was and how, you know, the problems were handled in a clean fashion. Even though the man was, you know, triple tapped in the head, it was still handled quite well. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. You'll have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.